Decluttering is often seen as a simple process. Sort through your belongings, decide what to keep and what to discard, and enjoy a cleaner, more organized space. But for seniors, decluttering is much more than that. It is an emotional and spiritual journey, a reckoning with the past, and a preparation for the future. Every item in their home represents a moment in time, a connection to loved ones, or a symbol of their life's journey. Many guides will tell you to just let go of unnecessary things, but they fail to address the deeper psychological and emotional struggles that come with it. Letting go is not just about removing clutter. It is about confronting attachments, facing impermanence, and making peace with change. For some, it can feel like losing a part of themselves, while for others, it is a chance to redefine their present and future. Decluttering forces us to ask, what truly matters? What do we hold on to, and why? In this discussion, we will explore 5 profound truths about decluttering that no one talks about. By approaching this process through the lens of Buddhist mindfulness and wisdom, we can find not just a tidier home, but a sense of peace, clarity, and acceptance in the face of life's transitions. Truth number 1, decluttering is a confrontation with impermanence. One of the most difficult aspects of decluttering is realizing that every item represents a past version of yourself. That book you once cherished, that old suit you haven't worn in decades, or even a set of tools from a hobby you no longer pursue. They all tell a story of who you were. Each object is a tangible reminder of a past identity, a previous aspiration, or an old attachment. Letting go of these possessions can feel like letting go of parts of yourself, making decluttering an emotional and philosophical challenge rather than just a practical task. In Buddhism, impermanence, anicca, is one of the fundamental truths of existence. Everything changes: our bodies, our relationships, our possessions, and even our identities. Holding on to objects from the past can sometimes be an attempt to resist this change, to anchor ourselves in a version of life that no longer exists. However, resisting impermanence only leads to suffering, dukkha, because it creates attachment to things that are inevitably transient. Recognizing impermanence in our possessions allows us to free ourselves from unnecessary emotional weight. The clothes that no longer fit, the souvenirs from a trip taken years ago, or the childhood toys stored in the attic, these things served a purpose at one point in time, but do they still serve us now? Clinging to them may be an unconscious attempt to preserve a past self, but true peace comes from embracing the present moment as it is, without unnecessary burdens. Objects as emotional anchors. Think of a retired professor who has shelves filled with academic books. These books symbolize years of knowledge, respect, and identity as a scholar. Letting go of them might feel like erasing that identity. But in truth, the wisdom gained is not lost. It is within them, not in the books. By decluttering, they are not abandoning knowledge, but creating space for new experiences and a new phase of life. Similarly, a woman who has held onto her wedding dress for decades, despite no longer being married, might find that it represents not just the wedding, but the emotions tied to it: nostalgia, joy, and perhaps even sadness. The dress is a symbol, but the memories and lessons from that chapter of her life exist within her, not in the fabric. Letting go of the dress does not mean letting go of love or the lessons learned. It means making peace with the past and embracing the present. Instead of seeing decluttering as a loss, consider it an opportunity to embrace the present moment. Ask yourself, does this item serve me in my current stage of life? Or am I holding on to it because I am afraid to move forward? When we frame decluttering as an act of acceptance, it becomes less about discarding and more about realignment. We are not throwing away. We are making intentional choices about what truly adds value to our lives. It is a conscious act of saying, I honor what was, but I am ready for what is and what will be. Practical steps to decluttering with mindfulness. Start small. Instead of overwhelming yourself with an entire house, begin with a single drawer or a single shelf. The small wins will build momentum. Ask the right questions. As you hold each object, ask, does this align with my present self? If I let this go, what do I gain? Express gratitude. Before parting with an item, take a moment to acknowledge its place in your life. Say, thank you for serving me before passing it on. Let go with intention. Donate, recycle, or gift items to others who may find value in them. Focus on the feeling. Notice the emotional shift as you create more space. Does it feel lighter, more freeing? Decluttering can bring up unexpected emotions: joy, sadness, relief, or even fear. It is natural to feel attached to things that hold memories. However, the more we practice letting go, the more we develop resilience in the face of change. Consider journaling about the experience. How did you feel before decluttering? What emotions arose during the process? How do you feel now that certain items are gone? By reflecting on these questions, you become more aware of your relationship with impermanence and how it influences your daily life. When we declutter, we are not just removing physical objects, we are making room for new experiences, relationships, and insights. Imagine a home that reflects who you are today, not who you were years ago. Imagine waking up in a space that feels light, open, and filled only with things that truly add value to your life. Ultimately, decluttering is a spiritual practice. It teaches us to embrace change, release attachments, and find freedom in impermanence. It is a reminder that who we are is not defined by the things we own, but by the life we live and the presence we bring to each moment. Final reflection. As you continue your journey with decluttering, remind yourself, impermanence is not a loss. It is an invitation to live fully in the present. Truth number 2, every object holds emotional weight. For many seniors, decluttering is not merely about discarding stuff. It is about carefully choosing which memories and experiences to carry forward. Every object in our possession has a story, a history, and an emotional resonance that ties us to our past. A simple piece of jewelry may remind us of a loved one, an old coat may bring back memories of a special trip, and even kitchenware may evoke nostalgia for family gatherings long past. As we age, our attachment to these objects can grow stronger. We may find comfort in the presence of familiar belongings, feeling that they anchor us to who we are and where we have been. However, the weight of these attachments can also become burdensome, especially when they prevent us from embracing change, adapting to new circumstances, or finding peace in the present moment. Attachment to objects often stems from a deep emotional connection to people, places, and experiences associated with them. A book signed by a late spouse, a dress worn on a memorable evening, or a child's old toy can carry a significant emotional charge. The thought of letting go of these items may feel akin to losing a part of ourselves or betraying the memory of a loved one. However, Buddhism teaches that attachment tanha is one of the primary causes of suffering. While it is natural and human to cherish memories, excessive clinging to material representations of the past can create unnecessary pain. When we assign too much significance to objects, we risk becoming trapped by them, unable to move forward, burdened by guilt or longing, and emotionally stagnant. A widow struggles to part with her late husband's belongings. She keeps his clothes, shoes, books, and personal items untouched, feeling that donating them would be like erasing his presence. Every morning, she walks past his closet, unable to face the idea of change. One day, she makes a small but significant decision. She donates a winter coat to a local shelter. Later, she sees a homeless man wearing it. In that moment, she realizes that her husband's legacy is not confined to objects. It lives on in the kindness and generosity he showed in life, which she can now continue in his honor. This realization can be liberating. When we acknowledge that love and memories reside within us rather than in possessions, we can begin to let go with grace and gratitude. Instead of asking, "Should I keep this?" a more insightful question is, "How does keeping this serve me?" If an item brings joy, warmth, or inspiration, it may be worth keeping. But if it weighs us down with sadness, guilt, or regret, letting it go can be an act of self-care. Practical ways to manage emotional attachments to objects. 1. Acknowledge the emotions. Before discarding an item, recognize why it is difficult to let go. Is it because of a sentimental connection, a fear of forgetting, or a sense of obligation? Accept that it is okay to feel emotional about certain belongings. 2. Take photos or write about the object. If an item holds significant sentimental value, consider taking a photograph of it and writing a short memory about it. This allows the memory to be preserved without keeping the physical object. Creating a digital album of sentimental items can provide a sense of security while reducing physical clutter. 3. Find a meaningful new home for it. Instead of discarding an object, consider giving it to someone who will appreciate and use it. This can transform the act of letting go into an act of generosity. Items with sentimental value can be passed down to family members who will cherish them. Donating to charity can turn loss into a positive contribution to the community. 4. Set limits on keepsakes. Establish a limit for sentimental items, such as a designated box or shelf. This helps maintain a balance between preserving memories and preventing clutter. Prioritize keeping a few deeply meaningful items rather than holding on to everything. 5. Reframe letting go as a celebration of life. Instead of viewing decluttering as losing pieces of the past, see it as making space for new experiences. Recognize that every object once served a purpose and express gratitude before letting it go. 6. Practice mindfulness and acceptance. Engage in meditation or mindfulness exercises to cultivate detachment and appreciation for the present moment. Remind yourself that memories and love are not contained in objects, but within you. Objects hold different types of emotional weight depending on the role they have played in our lives. Understanding these categories can help in making conscious decisions about what to keep and what to release. 1. Objects of identity. Items that define personal history, such as diplomas, awards, or career memorabilia. Letting go does not mean losing one's identity, but rather evolving beyond past achievements. 2. Objects of love and loss. Gifts from loved ones, belongings of deceased family members, or old letters and photos. Keeping select items as keepsakes while releasing the rest can be a way to honor memories without being weighed down. 3. Objects of nostalgia. Items that evoke childhood memories or past experiences. Recalling cherished moments is valuable, but excessive nostalgia can prevent growth. 4. Objects of obligation. Unwanted heirlooms, gifts received out of politeness, or items kept out of guilt. If an object is kept only out of duty, it may be time to let it go. 5. Objects of practicality. Items once useful but no longer needed. Recognizing their past function and then donating or discarding them with appreciation can be freeing. The process of decluttering is not about rejecting the past. It is about creating space for the present and future. Holding on to every possession associated with a memory does not preserve the past, it burdens the present. By carefully choosing what to keep and what to let go, we can cultivate a home environment that reflects who we are now rather than who we were. In the end, our loved ones, our experiences, and our legacy are not contained in things. They live in our hearts, our actions, and the way we touch the lives of others. When we free ourselves from the weight of unnecessary attachments, we open ourselves to a life of greater clarity, peace, and fulfillment. As you go through your belongings, ask yourself, does this object bring me joy or serve a meaningful purpose? Am I keeping this out of love or out of obligation? Can I honor this memory without holding on to the physical item? Would letting go of this item create space for something new in my life? By answering these questions with honesty and compassion, you can transform decluttering from a difficult task into a profound journey of self-discovery and emotional liberation. Truth number 3. Guilt is a major barrier to decluttering. Decluttering can be an emotional process, especially for seniors who have accumulated a lifetime of possessions. Often, the biggest obstacle to letting go is not practical, but emotional, specifically guilt. Guilt manifests in many ways when it comes to decluttering, whether it is tied to financial investment, sentimental attachments, or societal and cultural expectations. Overcoming this guilt is essential to creating a living space that is peaceful, organized, and aligned with one's current needs and values. Many people hold on to items out of a sense of obligation rather than true need or desire. The thought of parting with a possession may be accompanied by feelings of wastefulness, disloyalty, or even fear of regret. These emotions can be powerful, often leading individuals to keep things that no longer serve them. Common thoughts that can contribute to decluttering guilt include, I spent so much money on this. The belief that money already spent justifies keeping an item, even if it no longer has value in one's life. This was a gift from someone special. The concern that letting go of a gift means disrespecting or forgetting the person who gave it. I might need this someday. The anxiety that an item could be useful in the future, despite having not used it in years. This item has sentimental value. The fear that memories or relationships are tied to objects rather than experiences and feelings. These thoughts create a cycle of attachment that makes decluttering feel painful and overwhelming. However, Buddhist teachings offer a perspective that can help reframe these attachments and alleviate the burden of guilt. Buddhist philosophy teaches that attachment leads to suffering. When we hold on to things out of guilt or obligation, we are not honoring their true purpose. We are merely reinforcing our emotional dependence on material possessions. Letting go, on the other hand, is an act of liberation. Instead of viewing decluttering as an act of loss, we can reframe it as an act of gratitude and release. Each item we own has served a purpose in our lives at some point. When we acknowledge that purpose and let go with appreciation, we free ourselves from the emotional weight of unnecessary possessions. Consider the story of a man who held on to an expensive watch his father had given him. Though he never wore the watch, he felt obligated to keep it because of its sentimental value. Every time he saw the watch, it reminded him of his father, but also of the guilt he felt for not using it. One day, he decided to donate the watch to a charity auction. The watch ended up raising a significant amount of money for a good cause, benefiting people in need. At that moment, he realized that his father's love was never in the watch itself. It was in the relationship they shared, the lessons his father taught him, and the memories they created together. Letting go of the watch did not mean letting go of his father's love. This story illustrates how guilt can cloud our judgment about the true significance of objects. By releasing the watch, the man not only let go of guilt, but also transformed the object into something meaningful for someone else. If guilt is preventing you from decluttering, here are some practical steps to help shift your mindset. 1. Acknowledge the purpose. The item has served before. Letting go of an item, take a moment to appreciate it. Thank it for the role it played in your life. This small ritual of gratitude can make it easier to release items without guilt. 2. Separate the object from the memory. Memories reside in our hearts and minds, not in physical objects. If an item holds sentimental value, consider taking a photograph of it before letting it go. This way, you can preserve the memory without holding on to unnecessary clutter. 3. Find a purpose for the item. Beyond yourself. Instead of feeling guilty for discarding an item, consider donating or gifting it to someone who can use it. Knowing that your belongings will benefit others can turn guilt into a sense of generosity and fulfillment. 4. Reframe your thinking about gifts. Gifts are meant to bring joy, not obligation. Once a gift has been received, its purpose has been fulfilled. If you no longer find joy or usefulness in a gift, letting it go does not mean disrespecting the giver. It means making space for what serves you now. 5. Practice self-compassion. Recognize that it is okay to struggle with decluttering. Be kind to yourself throughout the process. Every small step towards letting go is progress, and it is okay to take your time. Reflection, love or guilt? When deciding whether to keep an item, ask yourself, am I holding on to this because of love or because of guilt? Does this item add value to my life today, or am I keeping it out of obligation? If I let go of this, will I still have the memories and relationships that truly matter? Love can exist without the physical object, but guilt only creates suffering. By choosing to keep only the items that genuinely bring joy and purpose, you can create a home that reflects who you are now, not who you were in the past. Letting go of possessions tied to guilt is not just about creating more physical space, it is about creating mental and emotional freedom. By releasing what no longer serves us, we make room for peace, clarity, and a deeper appreciation for the present moment. Decluttering is not about discarding the past, but about embracing the future with openness and lightness. With each item released, we move closer to a home and a life that truly reflects our values, bringing us a sense of serenity and fulfillment. Truth number 4, your family may not want your belongings. As we grow older, we accumulate not only memories, but also material possessions that represent different chapters of our lives. Many seniors hold on to heirlooms, furniture, or collectibles, believing that their children or grandchildren will one day treasure them just as they have. However, a surprising truth emerges for many. The younger generation may not want these belongings. This realization can be painful, but it is not a rejection of you or your values. It is simply a reflection of changing lifestyles, shifting priorities, and different approaches to material possessions. In the past, people tended to accumulate and pass down belongings as a way to preserve family history and identity. Furniture was built to last for generations. China sets were lovingly stored for special occasions, and collections of books, jewelry, and artwork were seen as prized possessions. However, today's younger generation often leads a very different kind of life. Minimalism and simplicity. Many young people today embrace minimalism, choosing to own fewer things to reduce clutter and stress. They prefer functional, space saving items over sentimental or decorative ones. Urban living and space constraints. The shift toward urban living has resulted in smaller homes and apartments, making it impractical to keep large or numerous heirlooms. Shifting values. While past generations valued physical possessions as symbols of status, security, or heritage, younger people may prioritize experiences over things, choosing to invest in travel, digital media, or social causes instead. Changing aesthetic preferences. Heirlooms may not match modern aesthetics. A dark wooden armoire that was once a treasured family piece might not fit into a grandchild's minimalist, Scandinavian-inspired home. Digital versus physical collections. Many younger individuals prefer digital books, music, and photographs over physical collections, further reducing the need for inherited items. Consider the story of Margaret, a grandmother who cherished her antique dining table. It had been in the family for 3 generations, hosting countless family gatherings, celebrations, and heartfelt conversations. She assumed that her daughter, Lisa, would love to have it. However, when Margaret brought up the idea, Lisa hesitated and gently explained that she and her husband had chosen a more modern, space-saving table that suited their small home better. At first, Margaret felt hurt. Was Lisa rejecting the memories, the love, and the history embedded in that table? But as she reflected on it, she realized that Lisa was simply making choices that fit her life. Rather than being disappointed, Margaret found another way to honor the table's legacy. She donated it to a local community center, where it became a gathering place for families who needed a welcoming space. Rather than assuming that your loved ones will want your possessions, consider taking a proactive and compassionate approach to addressing the issue. Here are some strategies to navigate this transition smoothly. 1. Have an honest conversation. Rather than making assumptions, talk to your family members. Ask questions like, are there any particular items that hold special meaning for you? Would you be interested in keeping this, or would you prefer something else to remember me by? How can we ensure these belongings bring joy to someone who needs them? By opening a dialogue, you create a space where feelings can be shared honestly and decisions can be made with mutual understanding. 2. Reframe your perspective. Instead of seeing it as rejection, consider it as an opportunity to pass things along in a meaningful way. If your family doesn't want certain belongings, ask yourself, could someone else benefit from this? What matters more, the physical object or the memories it represents? How can I ensure these items continue to bring joy and usefulness? 3. Create a legacy in different ways. If certain objects hold deep sentimental value for you, but are not wanted by your family, think of other ways to preserve their memory. Photographs and storytelling. Take pictures of the items and write down their stories. Create a scrapbook or a digital archive to preserve their meaning without keeping the physical object. Repurpose or transform. Turn a sentimental item into something new. A quilt made from old clothing, a shadow box display of keepsakes, or a piece of jewelry redesigned from an heirloom brooch. Share the wealth. Consider distributing sentimental items among a wider circle of people, such as extended family members, friends, or community organizations. 4. Donate or sell thoughtfully. When passing things on, consider places where your possessions can find new life. Charities and community centers. Heirloom furniture can serve a new purpose in shelters, community centers, or places of worship. Collectors and enthusiasts. Antique lovers or collectors may deeply appreciate an item that no longer fits your family's lifestyle. Online marketplaces. Selling items can help ensure they go to someone who truly values them while also providing financial benefit. 5. Respect their decisions. If your children or grandchildren decline an item, respect their choice without guilt or pressure. Understand that love and family bonds are not tied to material things. What matters most is the connection, the memories, and the values shared, rather than the physical objects themselves. At its core, The reality that your family may not want your belongings is not a rejection of you or your past. Instead, it is an invitation to rethink the meaning of legacy. A true legacy is not about things, it is about the love, wisdom, and experiences we share. While an heirloom might not fit into your grandchild's life, the lessons you teach, the love you give, and the time you spend together will always hold value. So rather than focusing on what will happen to your belongings, focus on creating moments, sharing wisdom, and fostering relationships that will endure far beyond any material possession. By embracing this truth with an open heart, you can turn what seems like loss into an opportunity for meaningful connection and purposeful giving. Instead of feeling burdened by what to do with your possessions, you can experience the joy of passing on what truly matters: love, kindness, and cherished memories. Truth number 5, the more you own, the heavier your burden. A cluttered home can become an obstacle, both physically and mentally. As we age, mobility issues may make navigating a home filled with excess belongings difficult. A clutter-free environment not only promotes safety, but also brings mental clarity and peace. However, beyond the physical aspect, excessive material possessions also weigh on us emotionally and spiritually. They demand our attention, our energy, and often our financial resources. Buddhism teaches simplicity, santuthi, as a path to happiness. The less we own, the less we are weighed down by material concerns. Many great thinkers, spiritual leaders, and even modern minimalists have emphasized the benefits of owning less. But why do we struggle to let go? What keeps us attached to material possessions, and how can we overcome these attachments? Ownership is deeply ingrained in human nature. From an evolutionary perspective, acquiring and storing resources was essential for survival. In the modern world, this instinct manifests as consumerism, an endless cycle of buying and accumulating more than we need. We associate objects with security, success, and self-worth. However, studies in psychology have shown that beyond a certain point, material wealth does not equate to happiness. The hedonic treadmill theory suggests that while new possessions may bring temporary joy, we quickly adapt and seek the next acquisition. This endless pursuit leaves us unsatisfied and burdened rather than fulfilled. Another psychological factor is sentimental attachment. We hold on to objects because they remind us of loved ones, past experiences, or significant achievements. While memories are valuable, keeping too many possessions tied to the past can prevent us from living fully in the present. Lastly, there is fear of scarcity. Many people hesitate to part with belongings because they fear they might need them in the future. This mindset is often fueled by cultural beliefs or past experiences of hardship. However, true security comes not from hoarding, but from knowing we can adapt and thrive with less. Owning more than we need has tangible costs. 1. Time cost. Maintaining, cleaning, and organizing excessive belongings requires time and energy that could be spent on more fulfilling pursuits. Financial cost. Buying and storing unnecessary items drains financial resources that could be used for experiences, education, or charity. 3. Emotional cost. Clutter contributes to stress and anxiety. A messy environment often reflects a cluttered mind, making it difficult to focus and relax. 4. Social cost. Some people avoid hosting guests because they feel embarrassed by their cluttered homes. Relationships suffer when physical spaces become barriers to connection. 5. Environmental cost. Consumerism contributes to environmental degradation. Excessive production and disposal of goods harm natural ecosystems and contribute to waste. Consider the story of John and Mary, a retired couple in their late 60s. They had spent decades accumulating possessions, furniture, souvenirs, books, and clothes, filling every corner of their spacious suburban home. Maintaining the house had become exhausting, and unused rooms gathered dust. They rarely used their formal dining room, and the basement was filled with items they hadn't touched in years. After much contemplation, they decided to downsize. Moving into a smaller, more manageable home was an emotional challenge, but they soon discovered an unexpected sense of relief. They no longer had to worry about excessive upkeep, property taxes, or maintaining unused spaces. With fewer possessions, their lives became simpler, more peaceful, and more aligned with their current needs. The space they created allowed them to focus on meaningful relationships, travel, and personal passions. Decluttering is not about deprivation. It is about creating space for what truly matters: relationships, experiences, and peace of mind. Here are practical steps to begin the process. Adopt a mindset shift. View decluttering as a positive lifestyle choice rather than a loss. Recognize that letting go of unnecessary possessions can lead to greater freedom. Start small. Begin with one category, e.g., clothing, books, or one room at a time to avoid feeling overwhelmed. The 90-90 rule. Ask yourself, have I used this in the last 90 days? Will I use it in the next 90 days? If the answer is no, consider letting it go. 1-year rule. If you haven't used something in a year, chances are you don't need it. Give items a second life. Donate, recycle, or sell items so they can benefit others rather than ending up in a landfill. Digitize when possible. Scan important documents, photographs, and sentimental items to reduce physical clutter. Mindful consumption. Before acquiring new items, ask yourself if they add genuine value to your life or simply add to your burden. Embrace the joy of empty space. A clean, open space can bring a sense of calm and clarity. Many spiritual traditions advocate for simplicity as a path to enlightenment and peace. Buddhism, in particular, emphasizes non-attachment and contentment. Santuthi, contentment, teaches that happiness comes not from acquiring more, but from appreciating what we have. The Buddha himself lived a minimalist life, owning only essential belongings, demonstrating that true fulfillment lies beyond material wealth. Christianity also teaches the virtue of simplicity. Jesus encouraged his followers to store treasures in heaven rather than accumulate earthly wealth. In Hinduism, detachment from materialism is a key principle for spiritual growth. Minimalism is not just a modern trend. It is an ancient wisdom that reminds us that the less we own, the more we gain in peace, freedom, and fulfillment. Imagine waking up in a home that feels light, organized, and intentional. Imagine spending weekends enjoying nature, deep conversations, and creative pursuits rather than sorting through clutter. Imagine financial freedom from excessive spending, allowing you to invest in meaningful experiences rather than material things. Living with less is not about sacrifice, but about making room for what truly enriches our lives. It allows us to travel more freely, adapt more easily, and cultivate a sense of gratitude for the present moment. The more we own, the heavier our burden, physically, mentally, and emotionally. But when we choose to simplify, we reclaim our time, energy, and peace of mind. We create space for what truly matters: love, experiences, and inner tranquility. Decluttering is not just about organizing our homes, it is about reshaping our lives. It is an act of self-care, an affirmation that we deserve a life free from unnecessary burdens. By embracing simplicity, we not only lighten our personal load, but also contribute to a world that values meaning over materialism. So take a deep breath, look around, and ask yourself, what truly adds value to my life? What can I release to make room for joy? The journey to a lighter, more fulfilling existence begins with a single step: letting go. Decluttering is not just about tidying up. It is an act of letting go, of making peace with the past, and of embracing the present with mindfulness. It is a deeply spiritual practice that aligns with Buddhist teachings on impermanence, attachment, and liberation. When we release physical clutter, we also create space in our minds and hearts, allowing us to live with greater peace and clarity. In Buddhism, attachment is seen as a source of suffering. When we cling to objects, memories, or even identities tied to material possessions, we unknowingly burden ourselves. Decluttering invites us to examine our attachments, to question why we hold on to things, and to practice non-attachment in a tangible way. By mindfully sorting through our belongings, we engage in self-reflection, asking, does this item serve me in the present moment? Does it bring joy, or does it hold me back? This simple yet profound process helps us develop a deeper understanding of what truly matters. If you are struggling with decluttering, approach it with mindfulness. Instead of seeing it as a chore, view it as a form of meditation, a practice in patience, presence, and self-compassion. The things you own are not who you are. You are not your belongings. You are the experiences, wisdom, and love that remain even when the objects are gone. Releasing physical clutter often brings an emotional release as well, lightening the invisible weight we carry. Letting go is not about losing. It is about gaining freedom. It is about creating space for what nourishes your soul. What do you think? Have you experienced the emotional weight of decluttering? Share your thoughts in the comments. This is Buddhist Mindfulness, helping you find peace, wisdom, and clarity in every step of life's journey. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on mindful living and spiritual wisdom.